Dear colleagues, hello and welcome. I suggest that we go ahead and get started. I think everybody is there, all of the participants and presenters. We can see the Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food and other guests. I'm happy to be moderating this roundtable, which addresses the role of agrarian business in developing higher education. Today we're going to talk about the challenges, outlooks, and options for improved education, skills, and employment in the agrarian sector of Ukraine. We have invited you over here in order to have you share your success stories and experience of the agrarian sector in overcoming education challenges. We also can initiate a discussion of further priorities and ways of improving agrarian education in the country. I'm happy to welcome the Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine, the Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine, the EBRD, international experts, representatives of agribusiness and agrarian universities of the country. Let me tell you that today's event will be working in Ukrainian and English. I'm happy to open up this event. Let's have a video message from the EBRD Manager for Eastern Europe and Caucasus, Matteo Petrone.
Good morning. On behalf of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, I would like to welcome you to our online conference dedicated to education, upskilling, and employment in agribusiness. At the EBRD, we are deeply convinced that inclusive economic development and partnership between business and education institutions is a precondition for building a sustainable business model. According to statistics, companies with an inclusive culture are twice as likely to meet their financial goals. In Ukraine, the topic is rapidly gaining momentum, and on our side, we are actively involved in the development of this area and accelerating our engagement. In 2020 alone, we have signed 5 transactions with an economic inclusion component for a total amount of about 200 million euros. I would like to thank our partners for their participation. We will look forward to hearing from the government officials about their agenda in this area. International experts in agribusiness will talk about global trends and national trends in higher education, and business representatives will share information about their projects which are under implementation with the support of the BRD. I wish you all an interesting discussion. Thanks very much.
And with this, I'm happy to turn over to the Director of the Unit for Inclusion in the EBR, Barbara Rambusek.
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be joining you at this webinar today. I think this is a very important event, as we have heard, that brings together a broad range of different stakeholders in order to look at how we can work together to promote access to skills and ultimately also employment opportunities, but also to make the agribusiness sector more competitive and better able to grow. The central importance of investing in skills is also highlighted in our 2 new strategies that were just approved yesterday. It's our new gender and equality of opportunity strategy, and I'm really delighted that we can now proceed with the implementations of those following their approval yesterday. Both strategies set out ambitious paths towards sustainably scaling up the EBRD's investments and to promote strategic workforce development solutions that reflect the changing nature of work due to digitalization, automation, the rise of e-commerce in agri-food retail, or challenges related to climate change. This will include skills audits at company, sectoral, and also regional level to better understand what are the gaps between the skills and the human capital as it exists today, and that will be needed tomorrow in the near, medium term, or even longer term future, including, for example, through the rise of e-commerce in the agribusiness retail. This will provide decision makers both at corporate levels, but also at national policy levels with a clearer picture of the trends, the gaps, the challenges, and the opportunities and provide the better basis, in a way also evidence base, to develop business solutions and also national level policy solutions that reflect that. I'm therefore really pleased to be here today to hear from 3 of our clients, AgriFusion, Astata, and Kernel, And I also very much look forward to hearing and learning from their experiences that they have gained from investing in skills development specifically. Importantly, I'm also very pleased that we have high-level representatives of the ministries for agrarian policy and also education with us today, in a way to look at the policy angle and see what is the experience there, what works, and to bring those two areas together. Because in the end, it is the cooperation and the partnership between all of us, all the different stakeholders that are here today, that is required in order to really affect meaningful change. And basically to ensure a thriving and innovative and growing agribusiness sector that creates access to jobs and skills and economic opportunities for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara, for the opening address. With this, I would like to turn over to the Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine, Mr. Roman Ichinko. Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm very happy to welcome you all at this event as participants, and agrarian education is becoming extremely topical these days. The domestic agrarian sector has seen a lot of development once they started the land market. The land reform is in need of experts who can get things done, who are ready to keep improving their skills and abilities. The agro-businesses can see the lack of professionals, and we need to make sure that you get more qualified staff, and this will help attract investments, innovative technological solutions, and new tools. So nowadays, development of the agrarian sector goes hand in hand with the improved Ukrainian agrarian education. We need to have practical courses based on advanced technologies. There is a shortage of skilled personnel, and we also see restricted capacities of universities. So we need to adapt our practices and offer required skills and abilities to students, which is why we have 19 universities in this network. They train about 130,000 students. We have about 15,000 people which become full-blown experts. About 14,000 are junior experts. All of these indicators have to be taken on board, and we need to make sure that these people gain quality education. So we're thinking of dual training through experimental curricula and syllabi. Teachers spend time doing the internship in businesses. They see how modern agricultural technologies can be applied. So we're happy in addressing the needs of the country in better agricultural education. We also need to adapt existing syllabi to the needs of the market, considering modern technologies and methods of training. And this will help increase competitiveness and sustainability in the agrarian sector. Much depends on how quickly the agrarian businesses will respond to the ever-changing external conditions. So we need to find competitive advantages all the time. Promising experts have to keep getting trained all the time, and my ministry is ready to fully aid in strengthening the collaboration between agrarian education and business so that we could gain the max possible benefit from that. So, colleagues, let's take part in this event actively. Let's take part in the discussions here, and I'd like to wish you all productive proceedings here and inspiration in all of your endeavors. Thank you for this talk. We appreciate the Ministry's attention on education in the agrarian sector. With this, I would like to have an opening address from the First Deputy Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine, Andrei Vitrenko. Good morning, dear colleagues and friends. I'm very happy to be taking part in this roundtable this time. It addresses a very topical thing. I support everything that the Minister has said, and let me add by saying that the Ministry of Education and Science is open to any type of collaboration with business. We keep improving the quality of higher education and other types of education. So agrarian businesses are welcome to take part in these improvements in the agrarian education. I'd like to make a point for the agrarian businesses. You guys are welcome to take part in the dual training that some universities provide. There is a gap right now between the university education and what is required in the labor market. And people who operate in the real sector of economy can help universities make better progress because they can offer their facilities to universities and their innovative practices in order to try and bridge this gap. There is a trend suggesting that employer representatives are training their own staff, and employers are taking an active part in setting up syllabi and reviewing them. They set up departments. There is an outlook for developing agrarian education and for improving institutional capacities of Ukrainian universities. I'd like to thank you for your attention, dear friends, and I wish you all inspiration. I wish you all very fruitful proceedings at this event. And let me say that we are in the COVID setting right now, and I wish we could do this offline. This would be a much better communication then, and it would be a great deal of a social inclusion. But still, I guess next time this kind of roundtable will be happening offline. Thank you all so much. With due respect to you all. Thank you. Thank you for this. So with this, I would like to turn over to the president of the Association Ukrainian Club of Agrarian Business, Director General of EMK, Alex Lisitsa. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm more than happy to be taking part in this beautiful roundtable which addresses agrarian education. And I can tell you that, in fact, over the last 15 years, since I have been in this country, not often you would see the Ministry of Agrarian Policy and Ministry of Education and agrarian businesses to understand what the problem is, and they feel like doing something for the sake of better agrarian education in this country in future. Back in September, we held a meeting featuring two ministers, the Minister of Education and Agrarian Policy, and it addressed the ways in which we can promote education in this country. We spent a few hours talking about what kind of education we all would like to have. And we all can see that we need to be practically oriented. Universities and education need to change. The education is something that cannot be changed very rapidly. It's like the agrarian policy. If we want to make a change in the agrarian policy, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to accomplish. And Roman told us earlier about that. Land reform is a historic reform, which has happened for the first time like this over the last 30 years in this country. It is in need of new staff, new ways, new practices, and we can expect some results 5, 7, maybe 10 years down the road. So it is a historic step that is being taken right now for the sake of future generations. And the same is true of the education and science. We're making the foundations for the better future of the agrarian sector in this country. In doing so, we need to see what it's going to be like in 2030, 2035. Speaking about the rest of the world, the idea is this. There is a need for sustainable development. We speak about sustainability all the time. In Europe, they speak about the Green Deal that Ukraine signed as well. We speak about carbon agriculture. We speak about reducing CO2 emissions and stuff like that. So for all of that to happen, we need new practices in place. We need to think out of the box. We need to look out for new technologies, not only in agriculture, but also in other sectors that are close to it, like machine building, chemistry, other industries and services. So, as far as I'm concerned, agrarian businesses have to think of the future outlook of the sector in this Ukraine and across the world. And these are the global ideas right now. So I'm happy to see this roundtable taking place, and together we're writing history. Two ministers are personally involved in this meeting. It addresses something that is a very sectoral thing, like agrarian education, but I like it this way, and I'm gratified to see it happen in this way. So I'd like to say that I appreciate you all, the organizers, the participants, and let me say that within the AgriCubat program, which we initiated 3 years ago, and many international institutions supported it, it is done in many universities, and this allows us to think about the future. We're not standing still. So we're speaking about the kind of education this country should have in the agrarian sector in 2035. And it's about sustainable development, environment friendliness, safety, reducing CO2 emissions. These kinds of things will be implemented in the agrarian education starting 2022-2023. So, guys, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I wish you all fruitful discussions, and if you want to see what AgriCubats will be starting 2022-2023, you're welcome to join Anatoly Tsirkun and Alla Kravchenko and myself, and we can discuss these things separately as well. So I wish you all a good day and be healthy and safe. Thank you so much, Alex. You have taken a proactive stance on this matter. So today, we're happy to have a representative of a country, a leader in the agrarian sector. I'm turning over to the advisor on agriculture, the Dutch embassy in Ukraine, Mr. Reynaldo Nautem.
Okay, first of all, thank you for the organizer for inviting me to this meetup. I'm very happy to say a few words from the perspective of the Dutch. About myself, I'm now 2 years in Ukraine as agricultural counselor. And from the beginning, I was very much interested in education because I see that there's a huge need to further develop the knowledge on current agricultural practices, the need for sustainability, taking care of the climate, taking care of the environment, reducing pollution, etc. I've been in contact with the Dutch knowledge institutions ever since the beginning, close ties with Wageningen University, who's at this moment already cooperating with the University of Life Sciences in Kiev. But let me tell you about our educational system, because I want to tell you this to have an idea how we organize it and how you can pick the fruits from it. And I also want to invite everyone for future cooperation. I would be very much willing to connect with those Dutch institutions to develop further cooperation possibilities. For instance, we already share experts to Agribusiness, which project which I very much appreciate, but we are willing to do more in this regard. Now, okay, about the Dutch educational system, I basically want to say two things. First, the direction in which we're heading. I already explained a little bit about this. In the last decades, we have been focusing a lot about optimization of production to become more efficient, to get as much as we can from the little soil that we have. And that made us a very big international player in trade. We are a huge importer of agricultural produce and a huge exporter, because we are a hub for Northwestern Europe. Nevertheless, because we have intensified our agriculture so much, we discovered the edges of what is possible. We noticed that we were basically predating on our ground, and we understood that we had to become sustainable. And this is what we are doing for the last decade or more already. And we have put a lot of input on the EU Green Deal, and it's much in line with our policy. it also makes us a lot very innovative. I can say a few numbers. We're sixth amongst the most innovative countries in the world, fourth in global competitiveness, first in EU. We're the second highest private R&D investment rate in agri-food in Europe. We're a global leader in machinery for processing, poultry, red meat, bakery, cheese, etc. Just to give you an idea that we are very much focused on innovation and development. Now let me go to the system itself. I don't know if it is possible to display the slide that I shared yesterday. We have the 4 sections in our system. One is government, comprising of the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food, Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate, Ministry of Infrastructure and Water, and the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science. That is one block that's representing the government. Then we have our knowledge institutions. We call it green education. This is comprising of different types of universities and vocational education schools. In total, over 150 locations in the Netherlands are aiming at lecturing students from the basic level, vocational education, to universities of applied science, to the University of Wageningen, which most of you probably know about. Wageningen is responsible for doing research, and the other knowledge institutions provide the transfer of practical knowledge and know-how. Then the third section is comprising of the farmers itself, the sector itself. In contrary to Ukraine, the Dutch farmers are on average relatively small. These are mainly family businesses and no agro holdings like Ukraine has. So the farmers are organized in farmer organizations. And these are our main discussion partner of the government. And then fourthly, we have the research components. We have extension services, research, think tanks, etc. Final part that I want to say is how it all interacts with each other. What is characterizing the Dutch system is close cooperation between the Dutch private sector, the agriculture sector, the government, via policy and budget, and the knowledge institutions. These 3 entities very closely interact with each other, and they make sure that policy changes are done mutually, not always as smoothly as it sounds. At this moment, we have lots of discussion between the private sector and the government about nitrogen crisis. But it works and it brings us further. It helps the government to work via education, via funding of subsidy programs to help the private sector develop in a more sustainable manner. In this regard, I want to mention a final thing that is what we call the Groen Pact or Green Pact. I would love to show you the website of this very shortly to see that all partners are connected here. Green Pact is the first place where all people can collect information, get together. I remember that the Deputy Minister of Education just mentioned about what are the opportunities in the sector and what does it mean for future professions. We have this Green Monitor, which you can also find on this website. And by cooperation between those 3 entities, we can monitor the developments and act on it. Finally, to close, we are really driven as a system to implement this vision that we're working on. Yeah, this is about it. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
I didn't see any questions right now. There might be some later. Thank you, Ronaldo. You have shared some updates on the European model of agrarian education and peculiarities of the Dutch practices. There have been good ideas. I think there is a lot of food for thought. And with this, I'm happy to...
Oh, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to shed some light on the dual education in Germany. I intend to share some of my slides. Okay, but the system. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, we see it. Thank you.
Okay, hello, yeah. I'm happy to be with you, and I'd like to talk about dual education in Germany. And the dual education in Germany is considered somehow as a success factor for professional life in Germany. It is in place for decades already, but it started with the apprenticeship after 10 years in school. Kids can have a kind of dual education, which means they get employed by an employer and they have in general 4 days a week to work on the company, and 1 day a week they go to school. This is what we consider kind of dual education for the kind of apprenticeship level. It lasts 2 to 3 years, and after these 2 to 3 years, those people who get a certificate, they can work as a plumber, as a nurse, as a carpenter, and so far. So dual studies in universities has started somehow, let's say 2 to 3 decades ago. And when it comes to dual studies in agriculture, there is only one university who has this kind of dual study where they combine in the way the university classroom knowledge sharing with the apprenticeship on a farm. So that means a big co-op farm, and I can hire a student and then this student will in parallel does do his or her apprenticeship and the bachelor in agronomy studies. So this is a kind of classic dual study in Germany, but so far we have only one university where people can apply for this kind of study. In other studies like mechanics and so on, we have some universities who offer a dual study in a way that people get employed by the company. They do a part-time job in the company and a part-time study at the university. This is very much in partnership with the company and the university, and it can be considered as a kind of recruitment strategy of companies. People who apply for this kind of study get assessed before the study, get employed by the company, and in many cases, of course, after they have finished their study, they continue in the company. So this is very much the system to really refill positions in the company. So the company has a kind of HR strategy. They will see in a way how many people they need to replace people who are leaving for retirement or other reasons, and try to recruit students right from the beginning for these kind of positions. Somehow also dual study is considered, or in a way internship are considered as a kind of dual study, but this is not a dual study in its pure sense. I think for most applied science like agronomy, agriculture internship is kind of essential part of the study, and universities differ somehow in the length and number of internships, but in general all agriculture studies include an internship. So to summarize a bit, the the system in Germany. As I said, dual education is mandatory for apprenticeship. One day in classes, 4 days working. Sometimes they can do that also in blocks. And the dual studies at universities is an integration of the study with an apprenticeship or a part-time employment. So for this kind of dual studies, the partnership with companies is essential. As I said, we have only one university so far who does it in agriculture. For all bachelor and master students, the studies internships are mandatory. And in general, there are 2 in the bachelor studies. The first, during the kind of foundation to explore really the professional opportunities in future, and also to make up the mind of what kind of specialization they like to go for by looking at different companies. And of course, it should also serve to build motivation to learn and to recognize what is important to learn at universities, and also to get somehow in contact with a kind of future employer. So this kind of first internship lasts about 8 to 10 weeks. And it's recommended to be done in the 3rd and 4th semester or 4th semester. After students have made some progress in their study, so they should go for a second internship. So really to use the acquired, to apply the acquired competences so far from what they have learned in the first internship and in the university, and also to build some confidence that when the employment on the way they are able to do the job, also, or to see in a way what kind of area would be most interesting for them to specify on further, because many students continue with a master student, and that means, of course, they need to have a kind of good idea whether they like to go more for economy, for animal production, crop production, maybe also for a kind of environmental studies like this. So this is somehow also to look at the area of potential employment, and also to decide on what kind of specialization they like to go for. When it comes to dual studies as such, of course, there are pros and cons. And of course, it depends very much on the employer and the company, whether a real dual study, meaning a part-time job in a company and part-time studying, is a good solution. Of course, there are a lot of benefits of having this kind of dual study. So it's really then very much focused on the required competences in the company or for the job, so to say. And also it should create motivation for learning things at the university. Of course, for students, they get a salary there, so they can, in a way, they can finance the study. Normally, in a way, for recruitment process, this shortens the trainee program because people are already very much aware of what's going on in the company, and it's to the mutual benefits for the universities and the partner companies. The partner companies can get in closer contact to the universities, meaning in a way giving some indications, maybe some guidance, what kind of gaps they observe when students come to them, and also from the university side, it's good in a way to see in a way where people are going to work and what kind of tasks they need to accomplish. So there's potential to have this kind of seamless employment after graduation. So there's the insight to processes and management of the company quite early already. And it can be considered as a kind of efficient recruitment, because if students have worked for whatever 2 to 3 years already in a company, the employer knows in a way whether they should go on with this guy, or whether they probably leave it better to some other employers. Of course, there are also some disadvantages, like it's supposed to have already initially a higher degree of specialization, which in turn means there might be less flexibility for other jobs outside the company they work for. Of course, the balance between learning and working is challenged, because it's time lacking for studies, or it's less time for study. Otherwise, but on the other side is a higher motivation sometimes. And for dual studies in general, because it depends very much on the seats offered by partner companies, the capacity is always very limited. So there is kind of big interest in this kind of dual studies, but of course only a small fraction of students can enjoy this kind of dual studies. I think with that, I will stop about talking Germany and leave it to comments and questions maybe later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail, for sharing your experience and recommendations about developing agrarian education using the example of Germany. With this, we're moving on to the part where we're going to present the results of 3 education projects implemented with the help of the EBRD and our clients and partners, consultants. I'd like to turn over to Viktor Gerashchenko, the Senior Manager of Ernst & Young. Thank you, Alina. I would like to present the results of a project on dual education for increasing skills of young professionals in agronomy. I'm going to tell you about this project and its components, and we will look at the main results and achievements of it. There are some things that we as consultants can recommend as further steps to be taken. And everything that the project has accomplished would be used further. This project is a result of a joint work done by the EBRD, Astarta Kiev, Kharkov National Agrarian University, international experts. Mikhail is one of them, he just spoke. We appreciate your assistance in this project, and we as consultants also took part in this endeavor. So speaking of the goals the project sought, well, firstly, we needed to draft a new program to train bachelors in agronomy, featuring an increased share of dual education, and then we needed to implement this program. So this should not become a bureaucratic exercise only. The idea was to try and train and increase institutional capacities of universities. University teachers and instructors should be ready to work under the new program. It would also involve employers, representatives of business, and it would be a benefit to students at the end of the day, because we do it all for the students. In order to accomplish all of that, the project was broken down into 3 components. Component A is about the drafting of the new training program for bachelors. Component B is development of competencies, and in this regard, we sought to implement the program in real life. So with the training sessions for teachers, for business representatives, for students, and they would get a much better idea of this program. I can share the presentation slides. There is no problem with that at all. And the third component is about communication. As you can see, there are lots of stakeholders in this team: the bank, Esther, the university, ourselves, international experts, and there have been external stakeholders. So there was a need for a communication and coordination. The project lasted from last year, August of last year, and it is still around, but it's nearing its end. And speaking of the key results of the project, here they are. Jointly with the partners, we have been able to develop a new program for training bachelors in agronomy in the Kharkov National Agrarian University. We have piloted it. The dual education component and on-the-job training became a part of it, and it was trebled in size from 5 to 13 weeks. In another component of the project, with the training sessions for teachers and university staff, so about 35 colleagues took part in that training. In doing that, we addressed dual education based on European practices, in particular Germany. We also considered some of the post-USSR countries like Kazakhstan. We learned from their experience. In these training sessions, we also addressed certain advanced practices, technical practices in agronomy. We looked at the advanced technologies that are applied these days in order to keep improving the quality of the stuff to students, businesses, and teachers. There have been training sessions for the university teachers, and we put some of that stuff on YouTube, Skills UA, and the website of the university also carries an online training which is student-oriented. The students would like to become agronomists, and some of them might think of doing that, so they will watch the videos and get the idea. So this online course has been completed by 250 people or so at the moment. And later on, we offered workshops for students and teachers, and also for business representatives. The idea was to give them a better idea of dual education and what role can be played by businesses in that. And secondly, we sought to help businesses develop managerial competencies and soft skills so that they could work better with the students and youth. They would find a common language with them, that would motivate them. and students would be interested in following their background in the agronomy. So speaking about implementing the new program for training bachelors, I can tell you this. About 100 students will be trained under this new program in the Kharkiv University. And secondly, this number might not be very impressive. I'm speaking about a new program run by Astarta Kiev. Only 9 students have completed it so far. As I said, it's not impressive, but we had this coronavirus and students had to move to some other place. Not too many wanted to do that. But those who completed the internship were very motivated. 5 of them have received employment offers. Now, speaking of subsequent steps, we would recommend 2 things here. Firstly, there is a need to develop the local success you have had working with the Kharkiv Agrarian University. There is also a need to keep running with the dual education program. There is a need to strengthen collaboration with Astarta Kiev and other businesses in the agrarian sector. We need to encourage more students to join this program. But this should not be limited down to one university only. This success story has to be replicated. We need to involve more universities, more teachers, more agrarian businesses. And this will allow the students to have more opportunities. They would be able to go to the university and get modern training there. They will get the skills that are really needed out there in the labor market. And this will be a benefit to universities and to businesses and to students. So the key thing is that there is a benefit to students because they are the future of the sector. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm going to be happy to field them. Thank you, Victor. With this, we're moving on to the other project. We're going to have it from the one in charge of Agrikibeti, Project Director General of UCAB event, Anatoly Tsirkun. Anatoly, you're welcome. Thank you, Alina. Thank you, all of the participants. Hello and welcome. I appreciate your time. You have been able to join us to discuss an important subject. I'd like to share with you some of the results of the project on improving master's program in agronomy in the south of Ukraine. We did it in Kherson Agrarian Economic University. We did it jointly with a key stakeholder, Agro-Fusion Company. There was support from the EBRD in this. The key goals of the project were to develop a new training program on agronomy. Also, we sought to increase the qualification of university teachers, and also we wanted to gain a massive media support in order to share these ideas with potential participants in the project. So we sought to increase knowledge and skills in the master's training program in agronomy. Youth should gain more access to modern methods of doing agriculture. It will help agrarian sector become increasingly competitive in Ukraine and across the region. The main stakeholder, the project initiator, was Agro-Fusion. The project also featured quite a number of powerful agrarian companies taking part in this. There are international, transnational agrarian companies and regional agro producers. In the very beginning, We did an opinion sampling involving international experts. We picked up some recommendations and then we implemented them in the course of this project. The project began back in April of 2020, and next month we're going to complete it, finish it. So everything was broken down into components. The key result of the component 1 is this. There is a new curriculum that we developed jointly with the colleagues and businesses and university and international experts. We changed more than 70% of the existing curriculum. Some of the blocks and disciplines have been reviewed 100%. While implementing this training program, we worked with university teachers, and also there were business lectures provided by business representatives, so there have been visiting presenters who spoke with students delivering lectures on certain things. Also, there have been special courses offered by foreign partners, so international speakers presented their information. In this component A, we also did some other things like pan-Ukrainian competition on agrarian policy of Ukraine. We did a massive media campaign. We also did communication with agrarian companies. We told them how they could actively participate in the project, should they wish to do so. As a result, let's look at the component B, the next component of the project. Here, the key result was increased qualification of teachers. 49 teachers of agrarian universities, primarily from Kherson University, have completed advanced training. It was a total of more than 40 hours. The training of students would be done under the reviewed curriculum. This reviewed curriculum was approved by the Scientific Council of the Kherson University, and students are completing their training under this program, and new students are getting admitted, and they will be trained exactly the same way under the reviewed curriculum starting September. So this project has been sustainable and replicable, and hopefully further on training will be happening onwards under this reviewed curriculum. We also did a training for mentors. I'd like to say that each of the students that completed the program have received a mentor. A mentor is typically somebody from the agrarian company. A mentor is somebody who takes care of the student from the beginning of the training to the end. And the student gets a chance to spend half a year doing internship in an agrarian company. So under this program, we have been able to have a number of lectures done by international experts, and also there have been special courses, as I said. In the slide you can see Roman did his lecture. There was a special course from Joe Campan from Wageningen University. We also appreciate our partners, the Dutch Embassy in Ukraine. They supported this and they helped us in implementing a special course. Other embassies were actively involved in implementing this project, and UCAB has been working with them for quite a while. In the course of the training, there have been some business lectures from agrarian companies. You can see their logos in the slide. These lectures address different things, agronomics, economics, management, and soft skills. Students from the Kherson universities were delighted to take part in the massive campaigns like UCAB Agro-Technology Days. They have been able to attend particular sites and get a better idea of agrarian technologies, modern technologies, and hardware used out there. We also organized a tour for the students. They attended the facilities of AgroFusion. There is a video report of this visit, and I will be able to share it as well. As I said, all of the students under this program have completed their internship in various agrarian companies, which are project partners, and some of them have received an employment opportunity like in AgroFusion and other companies, and we believe this is one of the key products of this project. In the very beginning, we had 25 students that were trained under the program, and then in September, the university got 26 students. It totals to more than 50 students that are getting trained under the reviewed curriculum. It's the master's training program in agronomy. Under this project, we created 2 online courses, and they are freely accessible. You can find them in the National Prometheus training platform. This QR code will help you get there, and you will be able to take on the course and get the certificate of completion. It features a high-quality content. It gives you a lot of updates and innovative knowledge. There is an online course in agronomy and agroengineering. These are the main disciplines, subjects that make the foundation of knowledge that program graduates are supposed to have. This project has been awarded by the EBRD. It was like an internal competition involving all of the projects implemented by the bank, supported by the bank across the world. So this project has received a bronze award, which was quite a success. The project was highlighted many times across different platforms, online editions, and mass media. It is something of regional importance and nationwide importance, and of course it is also of sectoral importance. And you can see a big list of media that gave updates on the project. Well, that's it from me for now. I have shared the key results of the project, and I'm going to be more than happy to take your questions. There's going to be a roundtable discussion happening soon. With this, I would like to share with you a video report. The students attended the facilities of AgroFusion.
Херсонський державний аграрно-економічний університет є сучасним найкращим вузом півдня України. І завдяки співпраці з Європейським банком розвитку та реконструкції у нас в університеті запроваджена програма удосконалення магістерської програми з агрономії. Завдяки співпраці з господарством AgroFusion Південного регіону здобувач вищої освіти другого рівня має можливість навчатися не тільки в аудиторіях, а й безпосередньо на виробниці, набувати досвіду в полі при подальшому використанні своїх знань вже безпосередньо в господарстві.
Виробничу практику я проходжу в агрохолдингу AgroFusion. Зараз ми знаходимося якраз на полях даного агрохолдингу. Оскільки моїм ментором є Савчук Юрій Іванович, директор з інновацій, я маю можливість побачити всі аспекти, всі технологічні моменти від початку вирощування розсади до кінця збирання. Зараз ми можемо побачити, як вирощується розсада інноваційними методами. Це технологія плантейп, яку використовують поки що тільки на Херсонщині, тільки в даному агрохолдингу. Подібні екскурсії, на мою думку, є дуже важливими, оскільки студенти мають змогу долучитися до всіх процесів, зрозуміти для себе, на які аспекти їм потрібно звернути увагу, що дійсно знадобиться в виробництві.
Сьогодні наша компанія бачить, що агроном – це не просто людина, яка вирощує щось в полі, дотримується технологічних карт та режимів. Це сучасний такий агроменеджер, який ще розуміє економічну ефективність того, що він робить для сучасної компанії. І також привносить технології найновітніші і вдосконалює цей процес вирощування будь-якої культури для сільського господарства. На сьогоднішній день я вважаю, що програму, яку ми створили разом, вона є дійсно успішною, бо дає знання ті, які необхідно сучасному агроменеджеру. А саме це, що таке економіка сільського господарства, як працювати з персоналом, як бути в команді і багато іншого, а також ділову етику і спілкування. Ці навички взаємодії, які на сьогоднішній день є необхідними та унікальними для цього процесу.
Надіємось, наша співпраця пройде плідно і, в принципі, розраховуємо на майбутнє працевлаштування студентів, в яких ми зацікавлені, тому що на сьогоднішній момент молоді перспективні кадри – це зовсім інший підхід до важливих питань, до процесних питань. Вміння молодих спеціалістів працювати з програмним забезпеченням. Це грає нам на руку, тому що всі наші технологічні процеси ми зараз переводимо в клас діджиталізації. І тут досвід і навики молодих спеціалістів, звичайно, грають нам на руку.
Нас ознайомили з виробництвом, висадкою томатів. Ми задавали цікаві питання, які для нас, нам на них дали досить корисні відповіді. І я вважаю, що такі поїздки на екскурсії дуже важливі для студентів, так як це нові можливості. І хто його знає, може в майбутньому я тут буду і працювати.
Взагалі студенти були дуже активними, і це для нас є таким невеличким, але успіхом. Бо коли студент проявляє активність, задає багато питань, це означає, що він цікавиться. А для компанії немає нічого важливішого, ніж студент, який зацікавлений в своєму розвитку та бажає надалі приходити і працювати в компанії, але спочатку проходити практику.
Всім студентам, які планують вступати на магістратуру, я рекомендую вступати саме за удосконаленою магістерською програмою з агрономії на півдні України, оскільки ви отримаєте всі необхідні знання для подальшого працевлаштування, 6-місячну виробничу практику та ще багато всього цікавого.
Thank you, colleagues, for your attention. We're beginning the discussion panel on the role of agrarian business in developing higher education. We have invited Ukrainian companies and universities which will share their success stories of projects and experience in collaborating with the science and technology community of this country. Alla, let's have it from you. Thank you. So we're moving on to the panel discussion. We will address existing collaboration and outlooks of collaboration between universities and agrarian businesses. So this time we have invited representatives of companies that helped us implement the above project. Natalia Pozhiglinska, Katerina Pesunovska representing AgroFusion, Lilia Marachkovets Agroprom Holding Astarta Kiev. Olga Kulik represents Terranol. We also invited to join this discussion, and we're going to have Alexei Romanov representing State Biotechnology University of Kharkiv City, and Ivan Marinsky representing Kherson State Agrarian and Economic University. We're also happy to see Tatiana Ichinko joining this discussion. She runs a Science and Methodology Center of Higher and Pre-Higher Education. And Oksana Yeremenko, she represents Tavre State Agrarian and Technology University of Melitopol City. My first question goes out to AgroFusion. There is an expert there that takes care of staff development in AgroFusion. It is Katerina Kasinovska. Okay, Katerina, are you with us? Yes, I am. Okay, hello. So you're the one who inspired the idea of the project, which has been done with the help of the university. So your company worked with this university before, and this time you initiated an entire project. So let me ask you if you're happy with the results of the project. Do you think your goals have been achieved, your expectations have been met, and what are the outlooks that you can see in this collaboration with Kherson University and maybe other universities of the region or the entire country? Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you and speak for the company, presenting the experience in this project. As an employer, we seek to get the best trained staff. But university graduates are not ideal staff for us, so that's not the way. We need to do more in order to get the appropriate staff for the company and for the entire sector. So we wanted for the students to be better trained. When we started working with the Kherson University, we would always say that students have to complete an internship. It should be a longer internship, and it should be something that will give them a real idea. They should get an idea of the entire agricultural production cycle. And then we initiated a particular program, and it has produced quite a benefit. We applied our skills to it, and people would be able to become better agronomists. We also added economics to that, and people should be able to think analytically. An agronomist is not just somebody who is growing plants, some agricultural crops. It should also be somebody thinking in terms of economics, in terms of potential benefits and optimization of usage of technologies. And this is something that future generations need to learn to do. In today's world, we can see that it is important to keep working with your staff. An agronomist is not just a unit in the company. There are people subordinated to this guy, and there is a need to keep in touch with them, to communicate with them, to make them a team, and then they will be able to do better, all in all. And these are the skills that we wanted to give to people, and thanks to this program, which has been supported by UCAB and EBRD and Ministry of Education, we can now make changes to the education practices, and students will then come to us better trained. If you look at the students we have had this year, we have seen a benefit from that kind of training. We can see many students could potentially come and work for us. We offered employment opportunities to some of them. And also, well, there is like a short list of students and there is a long list of them. Sometimes an employer cannot employ them all, but we can see that these guys are on the ball. So I think some of these students will come and stay with us and they will keep working with us and we will train them onwards. They will get a better idea of modern systems and IT solutions this company employs. They will get a better idea of global practices and technologies. So under this program, students have been able to gain respective knowledge, modern knowledge. It is something that is taught in universities in other countries. So if we think of outlooks, well, I can see that this program can keep on running not only in my university, I think it should cover other universities of the south of the country. And this program will have to be updated over time. You cannot make it once and let it go on forever. So we will see what are the emerging trends, what are the trends in the labor market, and I think over time this program will be reviewed and there will be a need for new skills we need to train these people. So in future we can see a potential need to keep running with this program, to keep training students, and there will be a need to make changes to the education program over time. Thank you, Katerina. I think it's a sustainable way towards reaching a sustainable agricultural production. This collaboration between universities and companies is something that will be going on for years in future. So with this, I'd like to have it from Ernst & Young colleagues that will introduce other participants. Uliana? I'd like to turn over to Lila. She will tell us about the usefulness of the project we do jointly with the Starta Kiev and Kharkiv University. So Lilia, I'd like for you to tell us about the importance of this project. What are the benefits that you gained from it as an employer? And what were the prerequisites for you to take part in this endeavor? Hello, colleagues. Hello, Uliana. And I'd like to thank the bank and the UCAB and all of the participants for this opportunity to speak about an important subject like that. Previously, they spoke about the topicality and the importance of dual education, and Katerina has been able to reflect the existing business need. It's a need for qualified staff. There is a gap between the education you get in the university and the real needs in the labor market. We have some experience as Agro holding the Starta Kiev. We worked before the project and we offered that sort of training and internship in animal husbandry, agronomy, agroengineering. We did it in the company. There was a proposal from the EBRD which allowed us to do this thing more consistently, and it's been an important endeavor. Before the project, we would offer training to students in hard and soft skills. We would give them some knowledge in economics and IT skills. The knowledge that you get in the university right now and the facilities that the universities have do not allow students to gain the knowledge and skills that are needed by employers. But thanks to this project, we have been able to move on. We used in-house facilities and trainers, colleagues and experts in order to train students, and we reviewed the program, we modified it. Because of the pandemic, not so many students ended up taking part in the program. But if we think of the reviewed bachelor's program, I think it allows a student to make a better choice in terms of education they would like to get. And now it's like a real deal to them. They can choose to participate in the program and do it. I'd like to thank all of the partners. Any questions are going to be welcome. So let's now have it from other stakeholders taking part in the projects. I'm speaking of education sector. I'd like to turn over to Alexei Vasilievich, Dean of the Faculty, involved in the project run by Ernst & Young. So, Alexei, what can you tell us about the utility of this project to you as a university? What were the benefits to you and what were the benefits from it to teachers and students? Hello? I hope you can hear me. It's all right. First off, I would like to say that I appreciate the start of Kiev, Ernst & Young, and the EBRD. It's been a tremendous opportunity to work together for the sake of better education in my university. We began in Kharkov National Agrarian University, and then we made some renovations. We will now become a biotechnology university, and this will only improve the ongoing collaboration. Speaking of the benefits, I guess every university works with production companies this way or another, but we have started a consistent collaboration with the start of Kiev, and we never had anything like that before. Initially, we started making changes to the vocational training program and bachelor training program. We added to that some competencies, and we added a lot more hands-on training. We really extended that. Then we offered internships for bachelors. The standard requires that you get at least 5 credits. It's like 5 weeks or slightly more. But we made it 15 weeks of hands-on training, and we made changes to the education program so that the students that are willing to master an occupation in one of the leading companies of the agri-holding could do so. They could get hands-on skills and experience learning from agronomists out there in the company, out there in the field. We did a competition among the students. The pandemic got in the way and some students would not go there, but we picked 6 students. They are from different courses, but they are the best of a kind. And they would go to particular companies and completed their internship there. All of the students produced a very positive feedback about the mentors they had in the company facilities. They would say the mentors are professionals, they answer all of our questions. If we didn't know something, they were happy to help us. They had everything they needed in terms of lodging and meals. They had all of that. So it is important to have that in place. In agronomy, you have to keep on working all the time, so you gotta have good lodging conditions and meals. So these students were involved in all technological processes like sowing season, harvesting season. They have been able to see the entire cycle from A to Z, and that's so important for an agronomist. I guess there has been a real benefit from this to the students. They are not graduates yet, but over time they will become professionals in demand in the labor market. Maybe they're going to stay with the start at Kiev, maybe they will go elsewhere. But these guys will be a lot better professionals than others who haven't been able to complete this internship. So as a university, we try and promote that, and producing companies and agribusinesses help us do it a lot better. So at the end of the day, you get much better quality graduates. Well, that's it from me for now. In this project, we also did an advanced training course for teachers. We told them about dual education. In this project, we recorded a number of lectures, one done by Michael Baston. He really helped us. He did a number of lectures for students and for producers and teachers, and our teachers were involved as well. You can get a free access to these lectures on YouTube and on Skills.org UA. You can see it on our website as well. I can tell you that after these lectures, we have seen a growing number of masters that would get a bachelor's degree in other institutions, but they work in the agrarian sector. They watched the lectures and they wanted to come to us and take a master's degree because they can see Michael Boston as one of the teachers, or Nikolai Shevchenko, Vasily Filon, Artur Rashkov. These are the top lecturers, and they do all of that online, and they work with us. So they helped our university gain a better standing in the eyes of the potential students. So some of the holders of the bachelor's degree choose to come to us and continue learning, so I recommend this way. Thank you, Alexei. Let's go back to agrarian businesses. I can see Olga is joining us, so you're welcome to speak now. Thank you. We can hear you now. As an employer, we had three concerns. One of them is digitalization. So skills and knowledge of students are somewhat different from the equipment that you get in real production and technologies and processes that are used in the private sector. The second concern is a lack of popularity of blue-collar jobs. The number of graduates, or actually kids that are trained for these occupations, has gone down. And the third concern is lack of dialogue between the three parties, employers, students, and training facilities. And thanks to the proposal from the EBRD, we have been able to join Open Agro University Project, OAU. The end objective of it was to increase the knowledge of young professionals, university graduates, in collaboration with teachers and universities so that these young professionals could become mature and fit for the needs of the agro market and all in all. Well, this project is in the making. The program is supposed to start on the 1st of February. I'd like to tell you a bit more about that. There have been some important decisions made. Firstly, we needed to popularize this thing. So for this project, we chose 7 occupations. 2 in agribusiness, 5 are in production. Agronomist, mechanical engineer, technology engineer, energy engineer, control and monitoring engineer, and automation engineer. So this is what we have contributed to the project. The idea is to allow the students to get some hands-on experience of the existing processes and technologies that you get in the company. They have been able to speak with our experts that actually employ these technologies, and they know all of the ins and outs of them. They can tell the students the things you will never hear outside the company. We are intending to invite the representatives of suppliers, producers of agricultural machinery, university teachers. So it's going to be a collaborative engagement, including many things. There will be many participants, and that will cover three things: hard skills, the professional knowledge and skills, then soft skills. You gotta get them both. And the third thing is digital. Our company is digital. We use software and technologies. And not all universities teach you that. There's also a community solution. We are intending to get the students into the program from across the country, from all universities where they are trained in these occupations. We want to make it a platform, a community for exchanging experience among students from different regions, universities, and so on. This will also be a good platform for teachers, because teachers are welcome to be speakers there addressing particular subjects. They're also welcome to be program participants. We allow them to look at our production processes. They can also address certain subject matters that are useful to them, and they might help them make with better curricula and syllabi. And also there is a social component to that. You get about 150 students in the program. After completing the program, some students will be offered job opportunities in our company, but we understand that there are other students which for some reason will not be able to stay with us. They might be willing to go to the labor market, but they will be trained adequately, and they will be able to respond to the modern needs of the agribusiness and agro market of this country. Year one of the project will be finished in September of 2022, and we're going to be able to report the results at that time. The project will be there for 5 years, and then we will see how it's going to go. We will need to update it, we'll look at its efficiency, so after making improvements, I think we'll be able to continue. Thank you, Olga. It's been an interesting information. Hopefully, your project will be completed. We can see there are various initiatives from agrarian companies, various views in terms of how to collaborate with the agrarian education. At this moment, I'd like to turn over to the one who represents Kherson State Agrarian and Economic University, the Dean of Agronomic Faculty of this university, Mr. Ivan Mrinsky. Hello, Ivan. I'd like to hear your opinion about the changes that have happened in the training process in your faculty. We spoke of the master's program. We can see that a state university has certain limits in terms of making changes to the training process. But nevertheless, we have been able to offer the training model and the particular curriculum which has been taken up with the agrarian companies, and we have repeatedly contacted other universities, especially in the south of the country. So could you tell me if these changes have been appreciated by the management of the university? Was it hard or not too hard to implement these changes? What do you think about the master's degree in agronomy? Does it have any chance, any raison d'etre? And tell me about the feedback from the students, teachers, and employers. Thank you. I'd like to say hello to everybody in here. I can see a lot of familiar faces, and I appreciate you all. I'd like to thank the stakeholders, the producers, AgriFusion group of companies that have initiated this endeavor. Thanks to Alex Lisica and UCAB and the EBRD. Alina, thank you so much for helping us change our training process. I can tell you this, our colleagues from other sectors are envious, and that tells me about a lot. We have made changes to the curriculum in terms of subjects and what they deliver. Those changes have been important. It's been an interesting experience. I appreciate our partners from production sector. They contributed to making those changes. I guess every dean, every university wants to train real professionals, best fit for the modern production realities. It's not an easy thing. So we offer a lot of theoretical knowledge, but hands-on training is the kind of assistance that we have received from production partners. Students complete internships, so some of our masters have done so earlier this year, and they get a good idea of all of the production peculiarities. Production is a very flexible thing. It's about climate, rain, temperature, market, COVID restrictions. They also get in the way. But nevertheless, students have been able to do well. The Institute of Mentors has been organized. Every student would have their own mentor. I spoke with the students afterwards and I discussed things with them. They told me about working with Yuri Savchuk, and Yuri has become like a second father for this guy in production side. So it is important to see how students perceive the productions, what do they learn from their mentors. As far as I can see, it's been a successful experience so far. So we make better training programs as we work with powerful companies and the EBRD and Ukrainian Association of Agribusiness. And that's a new development to us, but that's the way to go. We can see there's a need for changes in the higher education, and we're on it. These changes allow us to attract new students. This year we have seen certain risks related to extra tests and exams. It doesn't seem to be a big deal, like a test in a foreign language, but some of the candidates might think that bachelor's degree would be fine for them. Others wanted to go further. They appreciated updated and modern curricula, and they passed the test and they got admitted and keep on learning. So I hope these changes will continue. Katerina was right saying that we should not stop at this. We should keep making the changes which will allow us to have better quality graduates, and these guys will be interested in learning more about the field in which they work. Bachelor's degree is like pretty much basic knowledge, and they can do the sowing, the planting, they can control pests, but in the master's courses, you're going to be exposed to other subjects, and it will allow you to gain a lot more new knowledge, and I guess that program is needed. This year, we're expecting the first group of graduates, masters, and they will be defending their thesis soon, so hopefully production will find new employees thanks to this new master's program. I also would like to say that we gain a lot of support from the top level, from the scientific council and management. All of these curricula have been approved, and that will be used further in the training. And in this academic year, we have the reviewed master's training program, and it covers newly admitted students. So thank you so much for that, and I hope this collaboration will continue. Thank you, Ivan. We wish you luck as well, and thank you for the work you have done with us jointly. So with this, I'm happy to turn over to Tatiana Ichinko, the Director of Science and Methodology Center. Tatiana has spent many years doing this job, and she knows a lot about the training that is offered to bachelors, masters, and everybody else. So, Tatiana, tell us about the results of the project we're discussing today. Do you think these results can be of interest to other agrarian universities? Can they be implemented somewhere else as well? And what recommendations would you share with us from your experience? What should be considered by agrarian companies, businesses, and universities in terms of future collaboration? Hello, thank you, Alla, for this opportunity to join the roundtable. It has been a very interesting talk indeed. I'd like to say that I appreciate the organizers of this event. At this forum, we have two ministers taking part in it. You get people from the production, from education sector, and I like what the minister said. Agrarian sector should develop, including the development of the education. We need qualified staff working in the sector, so that makes me hope everything will be looking up. I'd like to thank UCAB, in particular Alex Lisitsa. He chairs the board on agrarian education in the ministry. And we can see progress being made jointly with the business, and these meetings really pay off. I can see some of the deans and deputy rectors of universities, and all of that to me is a product of this project, of this experiment, I would say. Barbara, in the beginning, mentioned the need to improve the skills. So everything we're doing leads to improved curricula, and at the end of the day, it's about competencies and skills. You may know something, but you cannot do anything. But you need to know something, and you should be able to do it. They spoke a lot about dual education, and we have some bits and pieces of that. It's not a complete piece yet, and dual education is not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. You can make lots of changes to the curricula. You can write whatever you want in them. But then there is a need for follow-up. It all should become a real deal. There should be people doing that, implementing that in companies. And we recently did a roundtable with German experts, and one of them said that in their country there is a bottleneck, and they tried to make it better. So in the companies there should be people that know how to train students. So your approach is exactly right. And the colleagues told me about that earlier on, like Anatoly Tsirkun and Viktor Gerashenko. You train the mentors, you train the ones that are on it. So it's the kind of training that allows those people to think of success. Last week we had a conference on dual education, and we could see that in this dual education there should be three parts: education, businesses, and students. Students have to be motivated. If you ask a student, what does it take for you to opt for a dual education? I can see people from Melitopol University, and I remember that students say, it takes willingness, motivation to do it, and we should be on it. Andrei Doroshenko told me about an important thing. A mentor is supposed to show the beauty of the agrarian sector because that's what it is. It is also important. And the representative from Kernel, I think it was Olga, she was saying there was a need to promote blue-collar jobs and occupations, and that's right. But a dean will not be able to do it so well. I will not be able to do it. The principal will not be able to do it. Kids need to get it from an expert, from somebody who is young, who is a successful businessman, someone who has accomplished something. And I know that works the best. Certainly, the results of these programs indicate a lot of success, and we always try and offer innovative, advanced practices. We're on it. But Kharkiv University is not a part of the pilot project run by Ministry of Education, where you get 79 universities trying to introduce dual universities. There are 7 agrarian universities, 11 colleges. I think Kharkiv University should become a part of that too. I think that's the way to go. So, I'm supportive of everything that has been said and shown so far. There is such a thing as university's autonomy. You can get 50% from the standard, everything else is on you. So we're going to support you in your endeavors. I think it's been a great experience, so let's keep on it. Thank you, Tatiana. I think together we will be able to demonstrate the attractiveness of the agrarian production and further outlooks for youth. And universities will be able to see the need for change because there are changes happening in the agrarian sector, changes for the better. We also have Oksana Yeromenko with us today. She represents Tavria State Agrotechnology University in Melitopol city. Their student has furnished an answer to the question, and you represent a university that is actively looking out for new collaboration forums in the academic sector and among the stakeholders. You actively work with the Council of Employers. And today we have heard a lot of recommendations from business about training experts. But let's have it from universities. What are your expectations from this collaboration with the agrarian business, and where do you see the best outlooks? Hello and welcome everybody. It is indeed an intense discussion of new components of the education process. Everything is changing in the world, and you can see a lot of changes, and we all need to change as well. Today's students are not the same they were 10, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's not good or bad, that's just the way it is, and we have to adapt our practices accordingly. We need to make sure we are on the same wavelength with them. There should be a good communication between teachers and students, motivating the students to learn. AgroKibat project is an interesting endeavor because it has been able to embrace the training component of the universities and businesses. When we started AgroKibat's program, we did a number of roundtable sessions, and we're still on it. Businesses started taking part in that more actively because they have seen certain changes in the university, and they showed a stronger participation. We appreciate the agrarian businesses. They have been able to develop a model of the future expert that we need to train. And then we have been able to review the training programs and curricula. It was repeatedly discussed in the roundtable sessions featuring agrarian universities and businesses involved in the project. We expect from businesses support for this project. Without businesses, we cannot pull it off. We are budget-funded institutions. We cannot afford some of the positions. So we need to support students as they complete internship. All universities say there is a need for a hands-on component and it should be extended. So a student has to live in that company for half a year. Agrarian companies are mostly found in rural areas, so a student needs a place to live in. They need to get meals somewhere. All of that requires funding. We understand that an agribusiness typically supports these students and become a part of the project. Then the best of the students are invited by the business to work for it. They offer them employment opportunities. Olga presented a new program which will be launched in February, and I can see they're thinking of offering different type of training to students, but they also cover teachers with these initiatives. In order to train a modern expert, we have to make ourselves better teachers. We need to figure out best ways of training students. So we need support from business in this. They should help us train the mentors and do something to train better mentors. Not everybody can be a mentor. It takes willingness and motivation to be one. From UCAB, people would come down to us. They could see how students were doing internship here, and everybody would say that the mentors are really on it. They are doing everything they're supposed to do, so they're real mentors. But there are not so many people like that, so we'd like to have more. So this is something we have to be working on. We need to keep motivating the employers and business all in all. We work a lot with business. We are in the risky zone in terms of land tilling. We don't have agro holdings. We have small companies, maybe medium-sized companies. But all of these farms and companies are focused on training process, and we appreciate their attention. I would like to thank the Ukrainian Club of Agrarian Business, UCAB. It allows us to train experts and to be a part of this project. I'd like to thank my fellow colleagues from universities. Agri-Kibetz project, it's like a family now. I'd like to thank all of the teachers that offer guest lectures to students. I appreciate everybody else contributing to the success of this project. I wish you all good health and good collaboration between universities, businesses, and UCAB. Thank you. Thank you, Oksana. So our discussion is nearing its end. We have heard a lot of opinions and ideas, and to do the wrap-up, I'd like to turn over to Alina Bilan. She represents the organization that has allowed us to collaborate so well with education and production companies. So, Alina, thank you so much, everybody, for taking part in this. I'd like to thank the speakers for sharing their opinions. We have heard a lot of interesting things. Minister spoke about the need to popularize blue-collar jobs, and we need to do a better job in this. Dual education and hands-on training is a good cause, but we need to modify the entire system. And also we have seen a lot of interesting examples from companies. It is good that in spite of difficulties, there have been some companies around that have been able to adapt to this setting. And in spite of all the complications, they have been able to use their capacities and potential and they have found a way out of the existing problems. We can see that the business has seen their social role. It becomes increasingly inclusive. And these businesses are twice as likely to meet their financial targets, and they're 6 times as likely to become more flexible and innovative.
Я пропоную на цьому завершувати наш круглий стіл. Хочу дуже подякувати УКАБу та
So with this, we can call it for today. I'd like to thank UCAB and Ernst & Young for assisting us in organizing the online conference. And also, you all are welcome to join the dialogue with us. You're welcome to join the investments, and you can contribute to implementing educational projects together with us. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.